I think that conventional medicine has become a little constipated. That's my view of the situation. I hope I'm not offending anyone with that metaphor. But it's time to open up to human relationships. And that's what you could learn from traditional leaders. That there's a huge value and benefit to human relationships. And you might even go further and talk about spirit relationships, but you don't have to learn from traditional leaders. We could just stop with human relationships and the notion of humans helping humans. One of my goals is that everywhere I go, I leave behind a healing circle. And I'm trying to get people motivated to come together for the purpose of being helpful and healing to each other and meeting on a regular basis. And I see that as a way to reduce healthcare costs. Because 80% of what people bring to their family doctor doesn't need to go to their family doctor anyway. It would respond to humans being together in circle, helping each other to get well. And that's sustainable. If every one of you went home and you invited all your family and friends to gather together once a month, or twice a month, or once a week, for the purposes of being healing for each other, something wonderful would happen. You sure would feel better. You'd have improved social support, which is, you know, if you follow the literature, social support is good for everything. You might actually have improved spirituality, which is good for everything, if you look at that literature. And you might actually suffer less. You might suffer less. So, traditional elders think that mental health practitioners should be trained to do. Unanimous, first choice, teach them how to listen. Because they don't know how to listen. So much of the time, the answer is hidden in the story. And this is not new. William Osler said this in 1905. And I'm just repeating William Osler, who's considered one of the heavy-hitting dudes of conventional medicine. So listening is a lost art. You know, the reflex today is the laugh. So one of the things that we could learn from indigenous healers is the art of listening, and also to look at the context of the symptoms. So what can we learn? You know, the fundamental concept of Aboriginal views of health and disease are that your symptoms make sense within the whole context of your life and all your relationships. And so if you want to understand a person's illness, the idea would be that you have to meet all their relationships, that you have to know all the people with whom they have connections, that you have to look at their context, you have to look at the stories that they're living, you have to look at the stories that they tell themselves every day, night after night. What are the stories that they tell themselves about what's true? And if you want someone to heal, then you have to restore harmony and balance in all those relationships. So relationships with spirit, relationships with animals, plants, minerals, land, other people, spirits, ancestors, creator, everything. So the Dene of northern New Mexico and northern Arizona talk about the concept of Hojo, which is also true in northern Ontario, northern Saskatchewan. Among those Dene people, it's the notion of being so much in a state of balance that it's beautiful. That you walk in Hojo, you walk in beauty. It's usually translated walk in beauty, but it's so much more rich of a concept than that. It's being so balanced that it's awe-inspiring and beautiful. And so what that would mean if we were to begin to think like that is that we would become much more interested in relationships and perhaps at the de-emphasis of biology. There's something wrong with biology, but 80% of visits to family doctors are not particularly biologically solvable. 80% of visits to family doctors have to do with suffering in its most simple human form. And the suffering gets bodied forth. And people feel their pain all over their bodies as well as their minds. And Aboriginal people of Canada and the United States didn't have separate departments of internal medicine and psychiatry and chaplaincy and community affairs or community health. You see, it was all one. It was recognized that it's an integrated piece. If you're out of balance and harmony in one area, you're out of balance and harmony in other areas, most likely. It's the notion of the medicine wheel, the medicine garden. And so probably, if we were to learn from traditional healers, we would spend more time with patients. We would order less loud. We would get the whole family and their acquaintances to come in to talk about problems. We would begin to be more aware of the social determinants of health and address them. And I predict family doctors would have a much happier life if they were to do that.